next, I'm going to hand over to Neil, Thompson and Jonathan from Atkins and AMRC, who are going to present on the Apollo protocol. So over to you both, please.
Hi, everyone. That thing we've got to check you can hear me. Can you hear me, Jonathan? I guess you're the main person to hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Just shuffling my screens around.
Excellent. So hello, everyone. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm here in my capacity of chairing the built environment at the IET, and I'm here with Jonathan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jonathan Eyre, Senior Technical Fellow for Digital Twins at the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre, and also for this call, the HVMC, so High Value Manufacturing Catapult, representative for the DT Hub.
Thank you, Jonathan. We'll move on to the next slide. So we're here to talk about the Apollo protocol, and who are we? We've collected an interesting set of stakeholders, bringing together lots of organisations that you may or may not recognise. So we have a built environment cohort that's around the Construction Leadership Council and the Digital Twin Hub in the IT, for example. We have on the other side, in terms of our friends in manufacturing, so the AMRC and the High Value Manufacturing Catapult that Jonathan's from, and also the technology related stakeholders, so the Alan Turing and Tech UK, and more recently the BAYS and UKI. Move on to the next slide. So we've come together for a purpose, and that is, how can the sectors of manufacturing, the built environment, and technology break the sectoral divide and unlock the benefits of digital twins? Because, next slide, please. We realised when sitting down and working out, what kind of sectors need to speak to each other from a digital perspective, realised that there is a wall between the built environment and the manufacturing sector. Although, all of the manufactured products live in the built environment, and the built environment is essentially the platform for all these things to be plugged into. So why and how can we get them to talk to each other? And through a process of facilitating conversations with lots of different stakeholders, imagine the network of people that we have connected to with those previous stakeholders. We've found something interesting, which is hopefully a little nifty animation here, is that actually technology and the supply chain that we use to digitally enable our sectors have overlaps, and we can actually broker a much better relationship from a data perspective through the connection of these three sectors. Next slide. I think I'm moving over. Sorry, go on, Jonathan.
Yeah, so what we found is that there's a lot of interoperability frameworks and different work going off within sectors, and there are brick walls between and within of how different companies exchange information. But there are good examples, may not be perfect, but good examples of what you should consider when looking at interoperability across different avenues. So we took this as a bit of an example of things that you should consider when you're looking at cross-sector. And we move that forward and say, actually, when you're in manufacturing and built environment, what do they look for? Now, manufacturing is very focused on sort of project design and process optimization, how it can make things better, faster, cheaper. But also then the built environment has some of those aspects, but then it's a lot more around resilience and citizen involvement. How do we retrofit to make things as efficiently as possible? So there is stuff in common, but they also communicate and need to interoperate better if we're really going to start to challenge some of the bigger challenges that we need to address as a society. But what's really interesting in these sectors in particular is that there are standards for both of them. So the manufacturing have 23247, which is recently-ish come out, tail end of last year. And that really highlights the way of looking at digital twins in manufacturing. But what's really important as well is that when Flex 260 came out, it mostly just references the manufacturing standard, meaning that finally we are starting to get to a common language of digital twins, because I look forward to the day when I don't have to start digital twin conversation without saying, what do you mean by twin first? And if we can start to have this common language and common way of looking at digital twins, then we can really start to break down this divide, at least as a starting point. So we did the classic Postit Notes on a board, albeit Miro in virtual COVID times, to look at where are these gaps and where are these things that we need to break down. And we start to clump and bring these clumps bigger and together to get towards 4 themes of value, performance, circularity, and human capital. Now, these aren't the only themes that we can pull out, but these are initial set that we'd like to build upon in terms of explore them first, see where they go, and then maybe as 5th and 6th opportunities open up, then we'll launch those as well. But over to you, Neil.
Yeah, and yeah, it was such a interesting exercise to bring these different stakeholders together, and we found a few things. We're going to talk about these in a little bit more detail. So first is around value and the value chain, and essentially ultimately the value chain of data and information. One could perceive it to be billions of different value chains that are scattering around all over the place. If we're able to coordinate our activities around creating a single value chain for data and information for both of our sectors, there is a huge business opportunity. You get to that gap between the two is what we believe is a very vibrant marketplace that can be created. And with that single value chain, we'll be able to understand our products and environments in a completely different and in a profound way in terms of their performance. And when we say performance, it's about the true whole life performance of both the manufacturing sector and the built environment coming together. So without that single value chain, we can't have the marketplace to incentivize the people to share data in a way to understand performance. Once we start understanding true performance of our built environment and the manufactured products that live in the wild within it, we then get this opportunity for circularity. Understanding performance means we will change things at the appropriate time. They can live for longer, they can live more efficiently, and they can be swapped, maintained, recycled, reused, and what have you. Both sectors have these models for circularity, but one is an input and an output to each other, and that hasn't been quite articulated yet, so we want to focus on that. And lastly, like all these sectors, they do not exist without their people. And what we found was interesting when we're looking at the types of people that we're looking to target to bring in an upskill in our sectors. There's a high level of overlap in terms of data scientists, the type of engineers that we're going to need to educate in the future, etc. We don't want to create a zero-sum game where the built environment is competing for the same resources as manufacturing. It will not come with a good outcome from our perspective. And how can we have a smarter approach to training people, etc. So those are the 4 areas. The next slide, which gets to what we've put together. So the Apollo protocol is more about the technical interfaces, and the forum is a space in which we're going to go about doing that. So we've got our 4 streams of performance, circularity, human capital, and value, and working at how do we start bringing unity, or what we're calling the great unification, between the built environment, manufacturing, and technology. Now, just to pull out a couple of things that we want to focus on in more detail, for example, the longevity and ownership of both the physical and digital asset is a key thing that is at this moment in time a fuzzy space, not understanding where it is and what we think is a major part of the business opportunity. There's this whole thing around risk, the liability and the legal frameworks, who is responsible for what, who has legal duties for warranties and what have you, is a key space. Also understanding that performance gap, because when we switch a building on, switch a system on, switch a product on for the first time, it has how it's sort of hypothetically designed to perform, and how it actually performs is a gap. And at this moment in time, in terms of projecting forward on reducing carbon emissions, for example, the best thing that we can do is project beyond those hypotheses that we make in design. We need to be making decisions based upon the actual performance of these things going forward if we've got any chance of becoming a low carbon economy or zero carbon economy eventually.
Yeah, and what's really key for this Apollo Forum is that this is a concept that we are setting up for the built environment manufacturing that is going forward now, but this concept should be taken between other sectoral interfaces. So by exploring these themes within other sectors and other sectoral gaps, have your own Apollo forums, look at the protocols needed to ensure that those happen. But it also means that you start to build this cross matrix of, well, how have they done performance for their sectoral gap? Can that help our sectoral gap? And really that will help you facilitate conversations in these areas. So we are setting up the manufacturing and built environment, and that is what we are here to announce today. But please take this concept and run with it where you find other value as well. We'd love to hear from you in other areas that you think this is value. So that being said, we are pleased to announce today that we are launching the Apollo Forum. It was planned for this Thursday, but unfortunately we've had to push back because of recent events. We are hoping to release a date shortly and love to have you all there. If you are interested in attending and sort of hearing more about what we've been up to and what is going to be happening going forward, there's an email address there. Please reach out. We'd love to have your interest in the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you both.